Hello, Doc Pens here. Just here for while I had a few minutes, I would do a really quick video for the brand new fountain pen users. Maybe you were given one of these pens as a gift, or maybe you just saw me or somebody else at a pen show and decided to purchase your first one. I'm going to demo this one, and I'm just going to kind of give you some information about general stuff with the fountain pen. So first off, I'm going to take this apart. These come apart typically in two ways. Either you twist or you pull. You don't want to just start cranking on it if it twists, because then you'll break the thread. So the first thing you need to do is just figure out on your pen whether it twists off or whether it pulls. This particular one twists off. So I'm going to pull this off. This is the cap, okay, just like any other pen. This is the cap, and this is the clip. Okay, not all pens have clips. Just depends on your particular pen. This is called a barrel band. And they put these barrel bands on most pens these days because a lot of times when you put the cap on the back of the pen, there were problems where some of the caps would crack. And so that's why they started putting a metal barrel band on most of the really nice pens that you see. Not all, but most. And then the end here, this is actually called a finial. Not all pens have a finial like this. Some just have a rounded top that doesn't have anything removable. This particular one is glued in place, so it can't come off. But this finial is what holds the clip in place. And some pens, like my Doc pens that I've had made, actually have my logo inside there. Some pens will have some sort of design like this one has. This one has a nice gold design inside the finial. Flags on a flagpole also have a finial. That's what, if you see the cross at the top of a Christian flag or a ball at the top of an American flag, that's also called a finial. So moving on down, when you take the cap and you put it on the back of the pen, that is called the post. It is posting. This particular pen does not post, but that's called posting. And so one of the questions people ask is, does the pen post? Because not all pens do. So that's called the post. So moving on along, this part of the pen, the long part that you typically hold in your hand, this is called the barrel. Okay, that's the barrel. All right, and then this part right here, where the nib screws in or pushes in, this is called the section. Kind of a weird name for it. You'd think that it'd be called something else, but it's actually called the section. And some of the older pens, the section pulls out with a lot of work. You almost have to wiggle it. This one screws out. You unscrew it to pull the section out. And then you'll see this, this is called a converter. This is what my pen loads the ink from. It's a converter, and it's very similar to a syringe. I've mentioned this in previous videos. And it looks like I need to refill it too. I've written quite a bit. I need to refill it. So, but anyway, this is called a converter. Some pens have a cartridge, which is a pre-filled little plastic tube of ink that you put on here, and when it's empty, you pull it off and you put a new one on. That's called a cartridge. But this is a converter in mine, and you know it's a converter because it's refillable. All right, and so then we have the nib, and this nib is gold. The nibs come in a few different materials. You may have a nib that is coated with gold, plated with gold. You may have a nib that is steel. You may have a nib that is called iridium. But this is the nib, and the nib comes in various sizes. And in addition to that, it comes in various points at the very end. This particular one is a medium point, and that indicates the thickness of the line that I write when I'm using the pen. Um, Mediums are very popular. Fine is also very popular. A little less popular is extra fine. Then there are some numbered items that are not nearly as popular, but for example, specialty like our architects might use a much finer point, or a bookkeeper who is writing in small spreadsheets might have a very, 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 very fine point. And then there are some larger sizes like broad. Broad is the one size larger than the medium. Or there's a stub. A stub is a much wider, and those are really for calligraphy. People call this a calligraphy pen, technically. Not a calligraphy pen. Technically, it's a fountain pen. Can you do calligraphy with it? Yes, you can. But when you start getting into the nibs that are much wider or flexible, those typically are what is used to make calligraphy. Not always, but most of the time. So hopefully this helps you understand a little bit about the components of your pen. Now there's one other thing I want to mention. On the back side of the nib, you see this black piece here. This is called the feed, and every fountain pen has it in various sizes depending on the nib manufacturer. But the feed is how ink gets from the converter or the cartridge inside the barrel through the section into the nib. If your feed is at the wrong angle, then you may have writing issues. If, for example, if you look at this, this feed is exactly in the middle of this tine at the end. It's right in the middle. And if it were one side or the other, you'd start to experience some feed issues. You wouldn't have as much ink to use. It might be scratchy, for example. And so that's how that works. Now, the feed needs to always face towards the paper when you write. If you start to try to write this way, or start to try to write this way, you're going to start to run into problems because the feed is designed to work facing the paper. And so I'll at pen shows and all of that, I'll have somebody pick up one of these to sign their name on one of our giveaways, and they'll be writing like this, and they'll wonder why the pen isn't writing. Well, I don't like this. Well, that's because you just need to face this down. And then some people, like I used to, has a habit of as I write, sometimes I'll turn as I'm writing. Well, you don't want to do that. You want to learn to write with that feed unit facing towards the paper at all times. The other thing is that feed unit, if you have a writing style where you take your pen and have it just like this, straight up and down, or even like this, almost straight up and down, you're going to start to have issues because the pen really performs the best when it's at about a 45-degree angle with that feed unit facing the paper. So that gives you a little bit of knowledge about how the pen writes and works. Sometime we'll get a little bit deeper into it, but I have a lot of folks that have purchased their first pen and they start to run into issues and they don't realize how the pen operates. And so a lot of the issues can be handled if you understand how the pen operates. So hope you have a great weekend. Bye-bye.